Hello everyone. In this video, I will be analyzing a Legend Offlane player and critique his gameplay and what he could have done better. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off with the early itemization, in order to know how to itemize, you need to first look at what is the enemy safe lane duo that you're going to be laning against. So if I see their lineup, I see a Doom, Zeus, Juggernaut, Enigma, and a Venomancer. So if Juggernaut is like usually the safe laner, then his lane partner should either be Enigma or Venomancer. Both of heroes which are pretty strong, combined with the Juggernaut combo with the spin. So what does Jugger like to do? Jugger likes to spin on you and do magical damage. Similarly, if there's like an Enigma or Venomancer, they also do magical damage. Combined with the Gale, the combo is like pretty deadly with the Blade Fury. So in this case, you cannot go for the notorious Wraith Band build that people are doing on offlane these days. So there's like a few builds when it comes to offlane. One is the Wraith Band build that you buy in heavy physical damage lanes. Juggernaut does not do a lot of physical damage in the lane, as he just likes to use his Blade Fury to harass you. So in this case, Wraith Band isn't a good buy. So the other items that you could go for, one is like a stick build, and the other is like the mango build. And you can also combine the stick plus mango build. But in this case, Juggernaut does not like to use his Blade Fury that often, because it has a big cooldown. And if it's like Venomancer in lane, he doesn't use Gale too often either. So starting with a stick is not ideal. But what you can, I don't mind your starting items. I think they're completely fine. Except that with the 90 extra gold that you have, you should buy another mango. So why is the mango build good? Mango build isn't just for mana. Is for the fact that it gives you health regen. It gives you 0.6 health regen. If there's like 3 mangoes, then you have 1.8 regen, which is pretty good combined with the tangos, and the new flag bearer creep also gives you HP regen. So in this case, you should be fine in the lane. Before we move on to the actual laning phase, I just want to make you think about the lane matchup that you're going to be facing. So whenever you're like playing safe lane or off lane or any role, basically, you want to ask yourself that, is the lane matchup favored for me or is it favored for the enemy? So in order to figure that out, you need to ask yourselves what kind of spells the enemy has and what kind of spells you and your lane partner have. So when you look at the lane matchup, they have Gale combined with the Juggernaut spin, which is pretty deadly if they get on top of you. But given the fact that you have Celestial Hammer, you can save yourself if you maintain your distance. Similarly for Mirana, she has Leap and she can also save herself. So it's not exactly a super unwinnable lane, but if you make mistakes, like using your Celestial Hammer to initiate, then most of the times you're going to get punished for it and maybe even die. So in terms of that, you need to figure this out before you go into the laning phase so that you don't feed like that. Moving on to the laning phase. Okay, so you're going into the lane and you're just standing here. While I do understand that you're just like standing here because you don't want to get gilled into the spin, but I will also want you to understand that if you just keep standing here, it's not gonna help. Also, another thing that I'm noticing here is like, this is not for the offlaner, basically, this is for the position 4 mainly. So if you play a position 4 Mirana, you have nothing else to do except for using your arrow on the range creep. What it does is that it secures the range creep, which gives you level advantage and makes your wave push into the enemy, which in turns returns a slingshot effect where the wave pushes back into you, which is good in this case where you're on the back foot. Like you saw how the Dawnbreaker had to just stay in the streets because she's just so scared to play the game. So moving on. So basically in this lane, it's like quite a difficult lane, and I see that you're trying to play very safely because you're aware of the fact that if they use their combo, then I can lose all of my HP, especially the fact that my Mirana is not with me. So while I do respect that, there's a way to play around it. So in order to play around it, rather than staying in these trees, what I would like you to do is to just play away from where the Manu and Juggernaut is. Like right now, you can see they're on the left side. So if you go towards this area, you can draw aggro of the trees and move them towards this side. So even if they go on you, they can't exactly kill you, because you can Celestial Hammer away. And because of this, you have like 0 creeps in the first 2 waves, which is not good for you. And you do a decent amount of harass, which is fine. terms of like laning mistake, like you still have 0 CS, so you finally get 2 CS out of the 12. So which is really bad. If you think about it as a core, like it's like you're probably like bottom net worth. It's like you're the same as your Mirana is. So in terms of like classes, this is really bad. And I think you're just playing way too scared. It's like you can't really die like that. If they want to go on you, they have to be like super coordinated. Like Juggernaut has to be right on top of you, and Veno has to basically use Gale. And then when that happens, you can always Celestial Hammer away. As long as you have Celestial Hammer and you're like maintaining your distance, these guys cannot do what they need to do in order to harass or kill you. So I see that you got a mango from the base early on, and now you have 3 mangoes. But I don't like the fact that you're rushing the Soul Ring. So in this lane, Soul Ring doesn't really help. Your Soul Ring is mainly for you to use your spells a lot of times, right? But in this lane, you can't really use your spells aggressively into them unless one of them is like out of position, like Veno in this case, where you can use spells on him and he dies, right? But if they're like together, you never want to initiate with your Celestial Hammer. So you won't be using your spells that often. Rather than rushing a Soul Ring, what a better item here is that you need to buy Boots of Speed. Like you need to rush boots. Reason being, the only way they can kill you is that they don't have any stuns. What they do have are slows and a lot of magical damage burst from the Juggernaut. So if you have more movement speed and you have Celestial Hammer, you're like going to be playing super safely in the lane, that they won't have any kill threat on you. But if you have a Soul Ring rather than a Boots, that will in turn really come to bite you later on. Like as you would see, like there's stuff happening. You see, like they do use Gale on you, but they can't really go on you because Jug has to be like completely be coordinated with the Veno. So it's not like a completely bad lane. And you also go for a Clarity, which is like a waste of gold. If you have Soul Ring and 3 mangoes, like yeah, you don't have to use mangoes for the mana early on, but you can eventually use them if required. And right now you see you use Celestial Hammer on them and they instantly turn on you and you end up dying here. Like I said, like if you ever initiate with a Celestial Hammer, you're always going to get punished or you're just going to die. So if you had boots there, maybe there's a chance you can live. Moving on. Okay, so since you don't have boots, you only have like 9 lasts at 5 minutes. This is mainly because you're just like way too scared to play into them. You're gonna get a free kill here, which is good, but that's just like a misplay from the enemy. So your goal when it comes to laning phase is to be able to stand in the lane and get CS. Like right now you're getting kills, which is fine. Like kills are always nice, but in terms of like net worth, imagine if you have like more than 10 creeps like close to Juggernaut, you'd be like maybe even top net worth, right? Like you would have a way better game. So when it comes to itemization, try to itemize in a way which allows you to stay in the lane and be able to lane. Basically that is your goal from your itemization when it comes to laning, right? Another thing is that you need to abuse aggro as much as you can. Like whatever chance you get, try to abuse aggro and get the wave towards you as much as you can, especially in these matchups. Like you see right now, you're super scared, which I don't really understand why. Like if your Mirana is away, like you don't need to be that scared. And right now you use Celestial Hammer again to initiate and you get punished. Now you have to go base again. So you see how this works, right? Whenever you use Celestial Hammer, you get punished for it. And since you only have like 13 last hits in 7 minutes almost, this is like a complete disaster, right? And this will eventually come back to you and you're gonna get punished for it. And since you use Celestial Hammer in this way, like this is like the main thing. The thing about a higher rank player and a lower rank player, the main difference is that the higher rank player might understand that yeah, he has to use Celestial Hammer to escape after he gets punished for it once, right? But for a lower rank player, it may take like getting punished 3 times, 4 times. And the best of the best players, they don't even have to get punished the first time. They already know that this is going to happen. So you need to have a plan for the lane. Like you need to think about the lane a lot so that you don't get punished and then realize that yeah, I need to fix this. Like even now you're using your Celestial Hammer to initiate even after getting punished thrice. So you can see how this is going. Like you're punished the Veno, which is nice, but it's like you have boost, you have Celestial Hammer level 3, right? So the cast range is like pretty huge. So you should like play a bit aggressive in my opinion. Moving forward, your Visage has rotated top and he wants to take this tower. So you guys are going on Jug. You already used your spin. You messed up your spells a bit, but it's like spells are like whatever, you know, spells aren't exactly game sense or something that, you know, you can be blamed for. So here, the basic thing is that your safe laner already TP top, which means that he wants this lane. He feels pressured being bot. And Dawnbreaker as a hero has like a very strong point is that she can play anywhere on the map and also be able to fight at the same time because of her ult. So whenever you have your ult, just play opposite from your team. That's what you have to do. You have to always play opposite from where your team is playing when your ult is like off cooldown. Because if they go on your team, you can always ult to your team and join them. This is like the concept is same as Spectre pretty much. And the other thing is that since PL is here, you don't want to play in a way where you, your mid laner, and your safe laner are all in the same lane sharing the same farm. Like if you look at the bottom lane, there's like a huge wave coming. So if I'm playing and I see this situation where my safe lane is like this, I don't want to steal his farm. Rather, I would just TP in here in time so I can take this creep wave. So let's see what you do. So you're looking at here, you're still staying here, and there's like the creep is just dying completely. You do TP in, but it's like you miss all of the creeps pretty much. So you don't get anything out of it. You get a bit of XP, but overall you don't get anything. And not only that, you stole some of your farm from the PL, which is also bad. So the thing is that you did think about TPing bot eventually, but you have to be quicker with these things. Like you have to play a bit faster. Like try to, like, these are like concepts is that you need to understand in terms of like, basically in terms of like farm prioritization, you're like, you have the least farm priority out of all the cores. Like the position 1 has the most priority, then it's like the position 2. But there's like also a concept, basically this is for general knowledge of the viewers and also of the player, is that early on, like the first 12 to 15 minutes, or like not 15, 12 to like 10 to like 12 minutes, the offlaner usually has more priority on the farm as compared to the safe laner, because the safe laner is going to farm the entire game, right? But the offlaner needs some items before they can start creating space for the safe laner to farm later on in the game. So if you're a safe laner, rather than TPing top like this, I would recommend you to let your tower die and just keep farming your own jungle, unless they're absolutely forcing you out, which is another case. But if you can freely farm your own jungle and also push this wave out consistently, your offlaner gets to stay at top lane and also farm. This way, you're getting something, your offlaner is getting something, and your mid laner just stays mid and they're also getting something. By this concept, you're basically all 3 of your cores are farming, and eventually your position 3 gets an item or 2, and then you can just go top. So this is like a concept that a lot of players can benefit from. Moving on to the mid-game itemization, or maybe you could say early mid-game itemization. So I see that you have Desolator in your quick buy, which is mostly the standard build for Offlane Dawnbreaker. Like you either go Echo Saber or you go like Desolator. But in this case, like if you see the enemy lineup, like all 5 of these heroes, they won't let you right click them without BKB. Like they won't let you reach them without BKB. Like Zeus has a lot of magical damage, and he also has ways to escape you, right? Similar for Juggernaut, he doesn't really care about you. Like he's just gonna spin out, or he's just gonna like out damage you, but like you cannot man fight the Juggernaut with an ult. Same for Doom, he can just like run away, or he can use Doom on you, Infernal Blade on you, which is really good against strength heroes. And he can basically, they have so much stuff that if you don't have BKB, your Desolator is going to be useless. And not only that, like in terms of your farm, like you have only 33 assets, your net worth is like really low. Like you have 4k net worth at 12 minutes. So you can only buy Desolator when you get it like super quick as in like 14 minutes, 15 minutes max. That's when your Desolator has an impact, right? You go Desolator, you go Shard, and then you eventually go Dagger, and then you have this BKB from your Q, which is nice to have. But if you look at their lineup, your Desolator is not going to do anything in terms of like how you want to play the game. Like if you look at your heroes, Visage is like a mid laner who cannot start fights at all. PL wants to farm, and Mirana and Hoodwink are like ranged heroes that like to play from the back line. So in terms of like initiation and how to start fights, it's probably your job to do it in this case, which is why Dawnbreaker isn't that great of an offlaner right now, because she doesn't really have what it's required to have like a good kit, right? She's not a good tower taker. She doesn't really initiate that well. She's like an anti-initiation hero, right? So in terms of like itemization in this particular game, if I were you in this situation, I would either go Echo Saber Blink or I would go BKB Blink. These are the two items that I would start with. Mainly because, like, you'll see later on that even if you go in with your Desolator, like, let's say you ult in on someone and then you start to fight, you'll just have to go back or you'll just die. Because they have a lot of magical damage and they have a lot of stuns. They have, like, a lot of ways to deal with you. So without BKB, it's impossible for you to play this game. And the other thing is that dagger is, like, very necessary because your team doesn't have any initiation, as discussed. And not only that, Zeus is a type of hero that's likes to play from the backlines, right? So if you guys don't have any reach for the Zeus, he's just going to do a lot of damage and the game's going to be unplayable. Moving on. So this is like a good example where you're going to ult on your, I don't know, hoodwink. Yeah, so you just like ult in and then you have to instantly go back because you understand that if I stay here, they're just going to burst me down, right? So do you think buying a Desolator would change this outcome? Like, this is not going to get changed in any way, right? If there was someone else tanking for you, then yeah, this could probably work. But there isn't any hero that's going to do that for you. So in terms of like itemization, like you have to adjust very well for this in order to like be impactful in this game. Especially when you have like so low amount of farm, right? So you see this fight again, like you can't really do anything. All you can, like you realize now that, yeah, the only thing that I can do now is I can just farm. Another thing that I wanted to focus on as like an offlaner tip for a lot of players is that they think that the meta is still the same as it was like a few years ago, where the offlaner is just a role where you don't farm and all you have to do is you have to buy one blink and initiate for your team and basically become the scapegoat for your position 1 and 2. But that is not the case anymore. Like, position 3 is essentially like position 1, but with like a little less farm priority. Like, if you've seen pro players, like, there's like a lot of greedy pro players, they just like keep farming. And if you're like not farming, you essentially turn into like a burden hero. Like, right now, your hero doesn't have any impact. Like maybe PL has more impact than you while he's just like farming. Because it's like, I'm saying this in terms of what kind of hero you're playing. Like right now, the meta is Dead Prophet, you know, these tower takers, Greaves buyers, right? Those heroes are technically the same as the meta where you used to buy like blinks and stuff. These heroes just buy Greaves and they just like run at you. But you're playing a hero that is very out of meta right now. That is like a greedy hero. This hero was good in the previous patch, where the patch was like a greedy offlane meta where Amar was like one of the best players because his hero pool is just like a very greedy hero pool. So this thing only works if you stomp your lane and then you keep farming. If you can't do that, if you like fail to do that, then this type of itemization is never going to work. So whenever you come across this situation where your lane was bad because of any circumstances, it doesn't matter, and then you have to adjust in the game because you don't have any farm, then you have to adjust in a way where you essentially need to have some kind of impact in the game. Like, for example, in this game, you can buy a blink. As soon as you get a blink, you can like initiate somewhat for your team, tank a black hole, tank some spells, or like just play as a counter initiate. Like whenever someone gets black hole, you go in and then you need to have some kind of item like a BKB to like make more use of it. If you're like only a hero that just ults in, then essentially you're just like a position 5 Dawnbreaker. Like, there's no difference between that and what kind of Dawnbreaker you're going to be able to play. So adjusting to your itemization is very, very important. Moving forward, you just died and you're about to respawn and you TP bot. You have your Desolator. So let's just see how Desolator works. Okay, so TP bot and now you're probably going to get punished for it and end up dying here. So this is like a very consistent issue with players around the same bracket like Legend, Ancient, even Divines, right? So one tip for all the core players, even the support players, never TP to tier 2s unless it's like absolutely necessary. You're like trying to initiate on someone with your team or like trying to protect your team. If you're going there to farm, you're always going to get punished. The distance from your base to a tier 2 is like very less. So the reason why you want to always walk here is that in case there's a fight somewhere here, you can always TP there, right? Your ult is also off cooldown, so you cannot join your team. Like, let's say you TP here and these guys start a fight somewhere near Roche. Then you can't join and they kill your team and then take it Roche. And if that isn't the case, then you just like TP in and they understand that, yeah, this guy TP'd in and now he's just like stuck here. Like, he cannot go anywhere here. So they will just like lock you out of the map. So try not to make these TPs, especially the tier 2 TPs. Moving forward, the enemy has Aegis and they're sieging your high ground because your team literally cannot do anything to stop them because you have no form of initiation. And you have your shard and you have your desolator and you're trying to go in. You do something, but you see, like, you get some moments where you can do something because of the shard, right? Like, your deso doesn't really do much. Now you're ulting in. So this is like the most impact that you had the entire game. You tanked Doom, you tanked Enigma's ult, and now your team can do somewhat better, right? But imagine if your early game is better and you can do this earlier on, right? That allows your team to breathe and then they have like more farm. And then when this situation happens where you tank spells and they're like low and they don't have any spells, what will happen is that your team's gonna clean up. But since your team is like so weak, they really cannot clean up that well. So the enemy's throwing. Well, like from this perspective, I think there's not much more to add to it except for the fact that the mistakes that have been done so far are the reason this game is going like really badly. Like, yeah, your teammates might have made some mistakes left and right, like how Mirana didn't play the lane that well, but overall, like, you need to control what your decisions are. Like, you cannot control what the Mirana is going to do. You can ask them for some things, but there's no guarantee that they're going to do it. So whatever happens on from this moment onwards is just like if they lose or like if the game goes on for another 10 minutes, it's just them throwing the game. It's not you doing something extraordinary that allows that to happen. So I think this is enough for this replay, and I hope this was helpful for you and for the viewers. If you enjoyed this video, do make sure to subscribe, because I will be doing the same video on position 4 and position 5. Not only that, I already have 2 videos on carry and mid lane. If you haven't watched them, go check them out in the video section. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.